It's Success Story Day, and we have for you today someone who is so phenomenal, so incredible, and this interview is so touching that it made me cry. Yep, you are about to hear/see me drop tears of awe and joy and wonderment and just feeling incredibly touched by our guest today, the incredible Robyn Gooding. Robyn is a global business strategist, an award-winning coach, and a mother. She works with feminine visionaries who are daring to rebel against rigid business practices and lean into their own intuition and wisdom, whilst also being supported by world-class business strategy. Robyn's work is devoted to the economic mobility of women, something, mind you, she has a master's degree in. These women no longer desire to choose between parenthood and purpose outside of the home. She works with coaches, healers, holistic practitioners, and service providers in the personal development and wellness space. With a decade of experience, she has helped build hundreds of profitable businesses at various stages of growth, with the sole intention of reminding her clients that they can build an incredible life and business their way. You can find Robyn, who is our current business coach of the decade, at robyngooding.com. This is a very special interview with an extraordinarily special person and coach. And you know what? That's all I've got for you. I'm just going to let it unfold. I'm going to let you dive in and listen to this incredible award-winning coach, her beautiful work, and this beautiful interview. May you enjoy it and be as moved by it as I was. Robyn Gooding, hello and welcome to you. I'm so delighted to have you on as our success story guest on Inspired Coach Podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and just honored in all the ways.
As we are, Robyn, by the work, the wonderful, now award-winning work that you do in the world. You are, in fact, our current and will be for the next 10 years, because let me tell you something, we ain't having those awards again, decade awards, until we reach year 20 and we're only at year 10. So you are going to be our business coach of the decade, which you are for the next 10 years. You're going to be able to hold that mantle, and who knows, in 10 years' time you might apply and win again. We've got no idea, but that is how esteemed you are to us. You are our current business coach of the decade. The work that you do in that realm is absolutely extraordinary, and I am so delighted that everybody is going to get to hear more about it today. Robyn, tell us, what was the inspiration behind you thinking, I want to leave the corporate world and become a coach and run my own business? That's a dream that a lot of people have. It's not necessarily one that a lot of people make come true, but you did. So tell us about what the impetus was for you to start.
Yeah, I would say if there was like a big why behind it, it really was my daughter. I was a fairly new mom to a really young little girl, and I felt like the economic systems that I'd been operating in were not conducive for me to be both a mother, in terms of the mother I wanted to be, that really present mother that wasn't rushed all day long, that didn't feel like even when I was physically with my daughter, I was mentally, emotionally elsewhere, dysregulated nervous system, all the things. I was starting to realize that I needed to create my own economic system to thrive in. And that was the big why personally for me to start my business. Professionally, I had another why, and it was that I had been in these economic systems for years and helped businesses in lots of different ways at different levels. And as a business strategist, for the most part, I had seen that so much of the big players, let's say, had this knowledge and lived experience and privilege that I had been exposed to that I wanted to pass on to the everyday woman, the everyday mom who could build a life for herself through business as a vehicle for living her values. And those were the kinds of people I wanted to help make money, and not to make them millionaires, although that's beautiful and wonderful and awesome. But first and foremost, to allow them to live the life they really wanted to live and the life that they were craving, and to give them freedom and choices, right? And I think if I get down to the core values, it's really to give women a voice in what they want for their life, in what they desire personally and professionally, but then also to have a choice in how to make that a reality and how to take action on that, so that it's not just a pipe dream. It's not just a fantasy that doesn't feel attainable for them.
You know, there is so much in there that I want to talk to you about further and unpack. But the first thing that really stands out for me is that this is such a common story. And I think for women in particular, and one that's becoming even more common, and that is that the systems and the culture and the values and the structure of the corporate world is something that is just not supportive or conducive to people living their values and really fully being who they are. Now, that does not necessarily mean that there's anything broad stroke wrong with it. It just means that sometimes there is a mismatch, because I know that there are people who go into the community sector that find that too. It's like, hang on a second, there is a misalignment here for me. And when we undergo an enormous rite of passage like becoming a parent, and our lives shift and change, that misalignment for us, if it's existing, it becomes even more apparent, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think I had a leg up in a way, because I had done my master's degree and my thesis research focused on barriers of economic mobility for women who are highly educated and living in countries where they should have equal access to a lot of economic participation. And the biggest barrier that I researched at the time was motherhood. And it also just so happened to be an experience I was navigating at the time. I was pregnant with my daughter when I started writing my thesis, and I finished shortly. Well, I finished a lot of it after giving birth, and then and did the final interviews and all of that as she was a little bit older. And so I kind of had this journey of motherhood alongside the academic research that was showing me patterns that I was living. And I think it's important to look at those patterns and to say where something is systemic, to say where there is like real barriers at play. And this is honestly something I could talk about forever, but I see all the time clients coming to me. They've left their corporate role because they're mothers and they have a certain value around how they want to show up for their kids. But also they're living in places where they don't have access to childcare, where they don't have access to a lot of the things that support the primary caregiving parent in that role as well. And so if we're looking at certain family dynamics, usually the parent that's earning less money is the one that's then going to stay home with the kids for the other partner to make money. And so there's this ripple effect of a lot of the time it's women or the mothers who are earning less than the fathers in heterosexual relationships. And in these normative family dynamics, these heteronormative family dynamics. And so they're being taken away from these things. And if that's by choice, beautiful, wonderful, nothing wrong with that at all. But if it's because they're being forced out of economic participation because they don't have support. We see that transfer to entrepreneurship too. We see the same patterns play out where they're like, okay, well, I'm going to build my business, but I'm going to do it from home. Okay, well, I don't have access to childcare because building a business requires time, it requires energy, it requires devotion. And if you don't have the resources, the systems, the support to invest in that, it's just as challenging in many ways, right? And that's where I really saw this gap in business coaching specifically, is I built my business with incredible, beautiful mentors that I will always be eternally grateful to. Not one of them was a mom or on the path to motherhood at the time. And motherhood was my biggest why for my business, and it also felt like the biggest barrier to building my business, because I had these extra constraints that I didn't see modeled around me. And so that's really the gap I want to help women with, is how do we optimize our systems? How do we create environments that are supportive and nourishing so that we can foster these multiple identities and create this reality where we are exactly the kind of mother we want to be and we embrace that. And also there's space for the other parts of us that also yearn to contribute and feel creatively fulfilled. And just, sometimes we give ourselves permission to wear different hats, and you don't need a different reason to want to wear a different hat. And that's okay too.
It sure is. And in my experience, most coaches that I know are passionate about many, many different things. And they actually want to wear different hats and want to try different things. It really is, the case. And everyone, we're not even 10 minutes into this interview, and I'm sure your eyes are maybe popping out of your head already and going, okay. It's like masters in economic systems and business and motherhood. And it's like, yeah, I'm feeling this business coach of the decade. I'm seeing where this comes from. Robyn, I told you, everyone, that she's extraordinary, and I was not pulling any punches there. You really, truly are. And I want to talk more about this term that I see you use on your website, the mothered business, more in a moment. But I want to go back a little bit more again, because I know that this is always something that our listeners love to hear, is that you spoke about the impetus and the why and leaving the corporate world and starting your business. And that's amazing, but it's not just a case of saying, yes, I'm going to do that, and then all of a sudden, business success comes knocking on the door. Many years later now, and for many years sustainably, you've been running a wildly successful international business. But how did you get your first client? Like, what was it like when you first started out? Take us back to the early days.
Oh, yeah. I think when you're in those early days, it feels like a grind. For most people, it feels like it's never going to happen for you, and it's exhausting and it's overwhelming, and you're learning to operate as the CEO, but you're also upgrading your skills in all different ways. And so there's just this barrage of output, and also every single client that you get just feels like so miraculous. You're just like so grateful. And I made a promise to myself I would never forget that feeling. And I can truthfully say now, every single time I sign a client, doesn't matter how many hundreds of people I've worked with, I have that same feeling of I'm so, so, so grateful, because I never ever take it for granted that someone's entrusting me on a journey with them that is sacred, and it's a gift. And I felt that with my very first client. In many ways, my first clients chose me. They recognized the skills that I was bringing into my corporate roles, and they approached me under kind of the radar. Many of them were in corporate and wanting to escape, and they were like, hey, would you just look at my business plan, or would you maybe just give me some, the whole let's go for a coffee.
Yes.
So there was a lot of that, and I started to see that there was a pattern where they would get stuck. They would come to me for a strategy, but really what they needed support with was the mindset piece. And that's what prompted me to join BICA, because I had the business consulting experience, but there's a big, big, big difference between business consulting and business coaching. And I needed to learn that, and I needed to learn how to hold space for that. And so those were really my first clients that chose me. And then when I got certified as a business coach and I merged the consulting with the coaching, I went online, and that's when I started getting my first clients, was via Instagram. And my very, very first client was a giveaway. Like, my first client from Instagram was a giveaway. And she ended up working with me for many years, many years. And so that was my first Instagram client. And that was part of BICA's process of, like, get your first clients. And then after that, there was a lot of referrals, because I think once you give 2 or 3 people an amazing experience, inevitably they're going to send more people your way. And I actually have many clients now that I got those many years ago, which is also quite amazing to have such a long journey with so many people.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Robyn. And thank you for sharing that. And there's just something really important I'd like to emphasize for you there, because a lot of really successful business coaches that I know say this, and I say it too, and I really believe it. And that is that our first clients, whether they are pro bono or whether they are paying, are usually very, very close to us. They are usually someone that we know, or someone that is connected to us through a couple of threads. And that can be, I know for me that my first pro bono client was someone that I worked with at the time. She was somebody that I worked with. We got along really well. We were peers for each other. And my first paying client was someone that she referred to me.
There you
a
go.
Friend. That's right. And so this is where threads of connection begin. Yeah. And, you know, so everyone, don't be afraid to lean into contacts and friends and peers and networks that you're already a part of. Don't necessarily think that your first client, first significant client, is very, very far removed from you, because they're often not. And so look closely. Yeah. So, Robyn, you know, one client and then an Instagram giveaway and a couple of coffees, and then more and more and more clients have come your way to the point now where your business is truly phenomenal. And you have, as I said before, this term on your website where it's very obvious that you're all about helping mothers build a business that honors motherhood and honors their parenting journey. But tell me more about what you mean by the mothered business. I'd really love to hear that in your own words.
To me, the mothered business is really about centering mothering. So it's not keeping your personal life and your professional life as these two separate things that are competing realities often. And instead we merge them. And one of the things that I've seen through research, academic research, but also lived experience now for many years, is that the mothers that really succeed are the ones that don't try to separate everything as a mom too much from work. And so what I mean by that is, of course, I don't have my child on my lap during coaching sessions, but my work really nourishes the way I mother, and my mother experience, both of my child and of myself, nourishes my business. And so we see this really beautiful harmony between how we show up in the world under these many different identities, but they're not competing. It doesn't feel like there's this constant tension or conflict where you might wear different hats, but you don't have to be pulled in a million directions at once, where your business pulls you so far in one way that it's exhausting and overwhelming and it's really impacting your personal life. But actually, where the two work so beautifully together that it makes you a better mom, and your mother experience and lived experience, and as I said, including how you mother yourself, because so many of us forget that, also then adds to the way that we coach our clients, the way we market, the way we sell ethically. I just think there's so many beautiful virtues to mothering and being a mom. And I don't think we should apologize for it. I don't think we should try to squeeze these other things in between motherhood moments. We can find a way where it all fits really beautifully. That's always my goal with clients, is how do the puzzle pieces fit to create the picture that you want, personally and professionally.
Beautiful, Robyn. Gosh, that was a beautiful explanation of that. And I had so many faces actually while you were sharing that, of beautiful you trainees and coaches and alumni who are mothers and who I know are either really trying to live and parent and do business in exactly the way that you're describing. And of course, to me, what this comes back to, which is a core tenet that we hold so dearly here at Beautiful You, is about heart-centered living, heart-centered business, heart-centered coaching. Because you can't claim for yourself to be heart-centered in any way if you're actually splitting your heart or splitting yourself and thinking, I have to be one way here and one way another. And really what you're saying there is that this is about really supporting mothers to bring their full selves to their business. Yeah, to bring their full selves and to not have to apologize or less than or this or, because look, let's face it, mothers and parents in general, but I think particularly whomever is the primary caregiver, which we know in not all, but most instances in families is the mother, are the most extraordinary people on the planet, like juggling so many different things, trying to create and mold and nurture and influence leaders and impactful people of the future, while of course tending to their own nervous systems and their own dreams and their own hopes. It's a huge undertaking. It's not easy, is it?
It really is. And I think that really comes back to this systemic issue that I see, where traditional economic structures have not allowed us to actually be human, have not invited us to bring all parts of us to the table, have really, demonized and almost weaponized gifts, maternal gifts like vulnerability, compassion, grace, creativity, diplomacy, this collective win-win, collaboration over competition. Like, there's all these gifts I think that we can bring to economic structures when we're embodied. And that's why I speak to embodied business, because it's really about how do I bring all of me, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, how do I allow all of me to be worthy, to be good enough, to contribute in this beautiful way. And I love that I've attracted women who are not just mothers, they're caregivers. They're people who are struggling with chronic health because they have reduced capacity. They also have so many gifts as a result of that lived experience to offer. And all of that is just something I am a huge advocate for bringing back into the economic structures, not just to like placate or make room for, but to value in the way I believe that needs to be valued.
You know what, Robyn? As you were talking then, I was actually choking back tears, and I just feel really emotional, actually. Thank you for touching a part of my heart with what you just said, because so many of the things that you just mentioned there, that systems of oppression such as capitalism and white supremacy and homophobia and the belittling patriarchy, the belittling of women and their full lived experience and ways of being and walking through the world, part of the weaponizing of those systems of oppression is separation.
Yeah.
Not just separation from each other and the village, so to speak, but separation and discombobulation of ourselves, and making us question who we are, how we feel, what is natural to us. And I'm not going to apologize for feeling really emotional about this, but I am just so proud and so happy to know that there are people out there such as yourself who are like, nah, not putting up with this anymore. And you have devoted your life, like years and years of master's level study. You made your mark in the corporate world, did the work that you needed to do there, and you're now out there supporting women to essentially come into their wholeness and create the life and legacy that they want to live. And so it's just very, very special and very, very important. And I remember little Robyn from many, many years ago, and I'm so proud to be talking to you now. Yeah, I really am.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Julie. That means so much to me, and it makes me emotional too, because the emotions you're feeling, or I think so many women feel them all day, every day, and we're confronted with this tension, this misunderstanding, this conflict internally, externally, in ways that are so hard to sometimes articulate, but we feel it.
Yes.
And so when we see, and this is why it's so important for women to take ownership in this way, is because when we see other women giving themselves permission to fully, wholeheartedly belong to themselves and to give to the world from that place, it lights something in us that says, this is okay. Because for so many of us, our whole lives, we've been told that's not safe. That's not okay. That's not how business looks. That's not how economic participation looks. That's not how motherhood looks. Whatever it is that each person struggles with, just full permission to connect with that part of you, that pure part of you that is loved and whole and valued as you are, and to bring that to the table, no matter what the environment is just a gift we can give ourselves, but also each other.
It certainly is. Thank you, Robyn. Robyn, I would love to wrap up today by asking you if there is a mother, or even just simply a woman out there that is thinking to themselves, possibly someone who is in the corporate world right now, and they're thinking, this is not for me anymore, or whatever it is that is not for them anymore, and they'd love to start something. They'd love to get out there and do something where, as you said at the start of this interview, they create their own economic system. They create something for them that they're empowered and in control of. What would be your loving message to them?
Well, I'm assuming firstly their inner mean girl is probably getting loud and saying it's too saturated, or it's too late, or you're too young, or you're too old, or you're too busy. You're all the ways that we like to tell ourselves we're not good enough. And to that, I firmly believe that if you have the dream, you have it for a reason, and to pursue that. Oftentimes we get overwhelmed by going from, step 0 to step 100. And so I really like to bring it back to what's the best next step I can take, and what's the best step after that, and the one after that, and to really follow those breadcrumbs. In terms of business, my framework that I believe we all will benefit from is a strategy, a system, and the soul piece. And so the strategy is, what is the plan? what do I need to do? The system is, how can I leverage systems to bring that to life so that I can take action in ways that is not overwhelming, and that is aligned with my capacity and my values. And then the soul piece is, what are those values? What does a successful business look like for me? And, in the online world where we're constantly marketed 7 figures and multi-6 figures and all these like crazy numbers, I'm getting so many women who are like, I just want 5K months. Like, I just want to replace my 9 to 5 paycheck. And, let's start there. And I think that too can be really helpful, to think that you're not failing if you're not at multi-6 figures, you're not at 7 figures, but it's just really about getting clear on, what does that business look like for me? What does that dream life look like for me? And how can I really pursue that truth over what I'm receiving as this external metric of what success looks like.
Beautiful. Amazing. Robyn, thank you so much. Congratulations to you for being the first person ever on a podcast interview that made me cry.
I don't know how to feel about that. Sorry.
No, you can feel good. You can feel good, because they were tears, a mixture, I think, of joy and awe and wonder, and just being deeply moved, just being deeply moved. And so thank you for your gifts. Thank you so much for saying yes to this course and this training and this community many years ago. And just keep doing all the wonderful things that you're doing. You're such a joy to all of us.
Oh, thank you for having me and being the school that put me on this path, and the community that continues to give so much to me, and to you for being one of my key mentors. I'm so thankful always.
Thank you, Robyn.